can we start by, I suppose, give me a very quick 30-second breakdown as to who you are, where you are in the world, and what is your business?
Yeah, my name's Jeremy West. I own a dress shirt company, sweat wicking dress shirt company called 6 AM Workshirts from Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, which is about 4 hours east of Vancouver, which I'm familiar with. I'm sure people are familiar with
Yeah,
Vancouver, but yeah.
very cool. So your background, is there an entrepreneurial background? Have you done a business before? Is entrepreneurship in your family, or is this a kind of a first venture for you?
It's kind of a first venture. I started about 5 years ago. I would say underlying my whole life, I always knew that I wanted to start my own company. I think it's a classic version of the whole rich dad, poor dad
Yeah,
thing. My dad was the poor dad, and I had friends with the rich dad, and it was pretty clear to me that if you just worked your ass off and started a business, that you could have everything you wanted in life. And that kind of just started as that and has kind of evolved into this lifelong journey of self growth. And I mean, when you want to make it, it kind of is it's a very humbling experience. And that's kind of what it's more about now, is just kind of continually growing and, yeah, growing as a person.
definitely. So why shirts? Why clothing? How did that business idea come up?
Well, I was in the restaurant industry for years, and I mean, I had the problem, right? Like, I was biking to work at the time, and I would arrive to my shift all sweaty and gross. We didn't have any showers or anywhere to get ready. So I had to bike in my suit at the time. And then I noticed that my first hour of my shift, I was just kind of getting rid of the sweat from my shirt, and it affected my confidence in front of tables. And I'm a big cyclist, I'm a triathlete. So I mean, one day I was just trying to clear my head and go for a bike ride and kind of take care of my own mental health. And I realized that all my cycling jerseys had two fabrics, where there was like a sweat wicking mesh on the sides, and then the front and the back was a little bit different. So kind of clicked that performance fabrics are made and get better every single year. And I just decided to incorporate that into a dress shirt, since that was kind of like both sides of what I enjoyed. I enjoyed suiting up and wearing dress shirts, but I also enjoyed physical activity, and kind of put two and two together and just decided, why can't dress shirts ever be two fabrics?
Very interesting. What I'd imagine a business like that, like it seems quite popular. A lot of people now, they kind of do the merch, don't they, in the clothing businesses.
Hmm.
But I can only imagine it's quite a complicated kind of business. Although on one side it seems very straightforward, from this like surface level. What's the biggest challenges you faced in maybe starting off and now in that type of business?
I'd say it's tough because there's so many challenges, right? I'd say the biggest one is, um, for me specifically, because yeah, a lot of people get into apparel, but a lot of people getting into apparel are just coming up with cool
Mm,
designs and throwing them on shirts that are already made. So they
yeah,
just have to source the shirts that are manufactured, and then they throw their own logo on it. Whereas for me, it's a completely custom made garment, and it's two fabrics. And so I would say, like, to answer your question in short, the biggest challenge has been supply chain
right.
issues. So I kind of assumed, when you buy and find these two fabrics that work well together, believe it or not, there's a million different shades of white. So when you're trying to
Mhm.
put two white fabrics together, getting them to match is actually incredibly difficult. And then once you find those two fabrics, since I was trying to manufacture locally in Vancouver, I ended up finding out that when you buy these fabrics, you would expect the companies that supply the fabrics to always have those fabrics available. But a lot of the times they just have a certain amount. They'll buy, like, let's say 5,000 meters, and then once they're out, they're out. And then you're kind of out of that fabric that was the core of your product, right? So I ran into several issues where I would do a manufacturing run, like, know that I needed to make more, so I would go to order more fabric and it wasn't available. So then I'd have to source a different fabric, which is a lengthy process. So
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of, I suppose, trying to sell the product, and trying to get a customer to buy it, what sort of challenges do you face face there?
Well, there's again several challenges. I would say like a big one for me has just been learning what sales is, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, as simple as it is, like last year, I feel like I'd read a book that just kind of made marketing click for me, where it was like the guy's advice was just that like a business is about two things, customer acquisition and customer retention. That's it. And like it sounds so simple, but for someone who didn't go to business school or anything and has just been trying to figure it out, that was just very valuable to me, right? So, yeah, in terms of the sales, several challenges. I mean, getting people to buy a dress shirt that is double the price of what you can get at Walmart or at
yeah,
Target or at one of like the high volume places is tough, right? But you have to kind of convince them that quality is worth the price. So, doing that online is extremely tough because it's like, I mean, you kind of have to try it on to believe it, right? Once
yeah,
you try it
yeah.
on and like figure it out, you get it. But doing that online is very difficult.
Are you so are you online only, or do you do any level of retail, or is it all just online?
Currently, it's all online. Yeah. My like goal all along has been to build the business in a way that I want to run a business.
Yeah,
And the way I want to run the business is I want to be able to travel the world and run my business from my laptop kind of thing. And retail starts adding travel into those plans, that sort of thing. So it's all online.
deadly. So I always find it interesting to ask people like, um, is there any other businesses that you look up to, or you admire? Obviously you have like I think Gymshark in, well, globally now, but kind of UK business. They kind of started with like they kind of have only gone into retail recently. There's another business I follow online. He's huge on social media. He does watches, Hagler West, I think it's called,
Okay.
and he just sells all his watches on online only.
Mhm.
What about you? Is there any business or brands that you would look up to?
There's many brands I look up to for sure. The ones that always kind of really pique my interest are the brands that also do some good besides just making money, you know,
Yeah,
like a classic example is Tom's Shoes. I really love the owner of Tom's Shoes and how you buy a pair, you give a pair. I love companies like Ten Tree that will every shirt sold or every product sold, they'll plant 10 trees, you know?
yeah,
So I always wanted to find a way to kind of join that because I look at those entrepreneurs and I just view them as genuine, authentic people. And it's not just about the money, it's about creating something that actually matters. And all along, I've always wanted to do that. So I recently created a partnership where every 8 shirts sold, because we're so focused on the restaurant hospitality industry. And I've been in it so long, I'm quite aware that there's a lot of mental health issues in the restaurant industry. And we don't really get support for it. We don't have benefits, right? Because we're getting paid minimum wage. They don't give benefits to us. Well, here in North America
hmm,
specifically, and it's a tough thing. So I partnered with a company that's actually UK based. It's called the Burnt Chef Project, and they
yeah.
provide therapy for people in the hospitality industry. And we basically every 8 shirts sold, we will give free therapy to somebody in the industry. So yeah, that's inspired by those brands that are doing good.
Deadly. A couple of questions to finish up on. So on that, and I've seen your collaboration with Burn Chef Projects, and I'm familiar with the work, and it's very cool, and it's a great kind of fit for the two. Is there any other kind of dream collabs you'd have outside of that? Like, what would be the big, maybe the ultimate collaboration, the ultimate brand you could partner up with? What would it be?
Oh man, ultimate collab. I don't know what the ultimate collab would be. That's a tough one. It's like because you start thinking down the path of like, do you want it to just increase sales or do you just
Yeah,
want it to
yeah.
be, you know, like
How,
um
how
honestly,
is
like
that
you
so?
mentioned
Oh,
Gymshark, like
yeah,
something
yeah,
like Gymshark would be sick because it's like obviously they're two different brands. They're not in the professional side of things,
yeah,
right? But we're also very physical activity mindset
yeah.
based, you know, where it's like I care about mental health. That's my biggest thing. But like the way I take care of my mental health is through physical exercise, and it's the way I've kind of stayed on a good track my entire life, you know. And that's kind of what eventually made me start these dress shirts. So if someone with that brand recognition, with that mentality, that mindset would be able to collaborate with a professional dress shirt company, that'd be sick.
Deadly.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question about social media and I suppose the importance that has on your business. And it's funny, a comment came in there just down below, and someone said, "I had no clue your company had anything to do with actually selling shirts, but I followed you for ages," which I thought was quite funny, because what I love about social media is you don't do the oversell, you don't push the product too much, and that's one thing that I'm always kind of in favor of, is not overly selling on social, because everyone does that. But I suppose how have you found that in terms of the work you put into in social versus the actual return on that?
Yeah, I mean, everything starts with social media for me right now, and it took me a long time to realize that. But ultimately, what made it click for me was, are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he's huge, and his whole concept around, he calls it jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically, the concept is, if you want to grow a company, especially on social media, the way to do it is to provide value, provide value, provide value, which is the jab, 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 and then ask for the sale, which is the
Yeah.
right hook, right? Obviously, using a boxing analogy, but um, it was that made me decide to start providing value in any way I could find, you know. And ultimately, what I have the most experience in, especially in the business world, is the restaurant industry. And I've learned a million different like small tips and tricks here and there. And so when I was trying to think, like, I was kind of at a standstill with the business, to be honest. I had tried the paid ads route, and we were selling shirts and we were making money, but it wasn't enough to self-sustain because ads were so expensive. Um, and so it kind of came down to, like, I had to try something else.
Yeah.
And so I started reading into Gary Vee, and that's what led to the jab, 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 right hook. And then I started thinking of, like, okay, well, who is buying the shirts? How can I provide value to them? And then, yeah, it just kind of started with me giving advice about the restaurant industry, little things I've learned here and there, and people started resonating with it. And then now I'm just getting like, people are following every day. There's people from all over the world saying that I'm helping them. And like, ultimately, whether they buy a shirt or not, the fact that I'm providing value to them and helping them in their career is enough for me to just keep going.
Deadly. Uh, Final one, Jeremy. What's the what's the end goal? How big can this business get, or where would you love to see it, in the future?
Yeah, I mean, like, the selfish side of me has always wanted to grow a company to the point where I can sell it and then start something new. I would love to get it to the point where I can sell the company and then focus more on what I think I'm really good at, is teaching, like, based on feedback and that sort of thing. Like, what I'm good at is teaching. So I want to be able to teach entrepreneurs how to start businesses and how to sell them. And the only way I can actually teach people how to do
Is
that
by
is to
doing
do
it.
it myself, right? So I mean, there's plenty of people out there giving you advice on how to do it, and I don't think they've done it
Yeah.
themselves, you know? So I'm someone where it may take me a long time to learn things, but once I learn them, like, I learn them so in depth that I know how to explain it to people. And that's kind of the ultimate goal, I'd say, is to sell the company and teach people how to do it.
Deadly.
Yeah.
But when give us a timeline. Do you reckon it'll be the next 5 years, 10 years?
I hope it's 5. Yeah, totally. I don't know. I don't really have a goal as to when I'm gonna sell it or anything. But I think ultimately, like, before that happens, I do want to create a company with a really good culture.
Yeah.
And so, like, right now I'm a one-man show, right? And I would love to eventually hire people and start growing the company and have amazing people that work with me and help grow it. And I would love to have, like, yeah, let's say like 5 years of grinding, doing that, but also, like, I'm big into self-improvement and becoming the best version of yourself. And I think that I could help inspire people that work with me to think that way as well. So I guess going back to it, I think the goal would be that, and run the company that way for a while, and then start thinking about selling.
Deadly. Very quick last question, Jeremy. Just a question came in here, and we'll get. So someone just said, what advice would you give international students starting a career in the hospitality industry? So in other words, what advice do you give someone getting into hospitality?
I I don't know how different my advice would be for an international student versus anybody who wants to
Mm,
start in the restaurant industry. Well, hospitality, I guess. I would say just like if you're thinking about it, just try and find a good place to work with good leadership. There are a lot of hospitality or restaurants out there that I guess just don't have good training programs and don't have good leadership, and that can be a very toxic environment. But I promise you, there are restaurants out there that care about their people and actually like foster growth and have good managers. Like the first restaurant job I ever had, I remember like legitimately thinking that managers had to be assholes.
uh-huh.
I assumed that was the case, you know. I thought you had to
Yeah,
be an asshole
yeah,
until I got a new job at a new restaurant with good leadership and amazing people. And I realized like, oh, they can actually be nice people too, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So I would say just like, don't necessarily take the first job you can get, be a little bit more picky, like try and vet out some places that have good opportunity, somewhere that's busy. Um, and yeah, that would be my advice. And then follow my account and there will be plenty of advice on there.
Jeremy, thank you so much, my man.
You're
It was a
welcome.
pleasure to chat to you, and thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, man.
Cheers,
This
man.
was fun.
It's
Cheers.
cool. All the best of the business, and we'll chat to you soon, my man.